Thanks for tuning in. I'm Steve Raye, author of How to Get U.S. Market Ready. And in this podcast, I'm going to share with you some of the lessons I've learned from 30 years in the wine and spirits business, helping brands enter and grow in the U.S. market. I've heard it said that experience is what you get when you don't get what you want. My goal with the book and this podcast is to share my experience and the lessons learned from it with you so you can apply those lessons and be successful in America. So, let's get into it. Hi, this is Steve Raye, and welcome to the Italian Wine Podcast. This week, we're going to be talking about millennials, a critically important age cohort in the U.S. market. There has been a lot of discussion about the importance of and the role that millennials play in the wine and spirits business in the U.S. The generation is defined as those born between 1982 and 1996, and they have redefined the commercial world much as their predecessor baby boomers did a generation or two earlier. In fact, millennials are generally reckoned to total 77 million versus 70 million for boomers, and they've all come of legal age as of 2017. Not only are there more of them, they came of age in a world where technology continually transforms and disrupts the status quo, seemingly at an exponentially increasing rate. Smartphones, social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, iPads, Kindles are just a few examples. I'm not going to go into a detailed profile of this generation in this podcast, and I don't in the book. However, I do want to point out a couple of areas where their behavior is fundamentally changing the wine and spirits industry in ways to which export producers can react. What I mean by that, what you can do as a producer to adapt to and appeal to the millennial audience. Well, let's start with magazines. You remember those? Maybe you don't. In the past, specialty publications and their celebrity critics were looked to as the arbiters of quality. But millennials typically don't subscribe to print magazines or ratings and review services that charge a membership fee for wines, as an example. And what social media has wrought is that millennials don't care what the pundits say. They want to know what their peers say. I'm going to repeat that. They don't care what the pundits say because the pundits don't have the street cred, if you will, in the millennials' world. They want to know what their peers say. So it's basically word-of-mouth marketing raised to an exponent of 10. They don't get their information from magazines. They get it on their smartphones and from online resources and their social networks. So the days where brands would invest the bulk of their money in traditional display advertising is not only over, but long gone. Need proof? According to one recent Nielsen study, only 22% of people trust ads, but 83% trust recommendations from their peers over advertising. It also said that consumers are 71% more likely to make a purchase based on social media referrals. And that data is for the general market. For millennials, it's even more pronounced. So as the scale of this sea change in how opinions are stated and shared is orders of magnitude greater than for prior generations. Let me put that statement into perspective with some numbers. Wine Spectator has a circulation of approximately 380,000. Wine Enthusiast is about 325,000. And Wine Advocate, aka Robert Parker's magazine, is not reported but assumed to be less than 50,000. In comparison, Vivino had been downloaded 24 million times as of 2018 and reports 20 million monthly viewers. VinePair similarly boasts 2 million unique monthly viewers. And Wine Searcher has become the default tool for price comparisons and where to buy worldwide, with 34 million users and over 10 million label recognition scans. And those numbers are orders of magnitude, 10x and 100x more reach, with the added component of engagement and evolving dialogue rather than a one-way static resource. So I like to stress this in many of my presentations. The key things that millennials are looking for really are the same things that I think that boomers and everybody is looking for. But perhaps more pointedly, discovery, authenticity, heritage, legacy, sharing, and emotional connection are concepts that resonate with this generation. And successful marketers are learning how to make those connections. Just one example is 19 Crimes. It leaped from introduction to 1 million plus cases in just a couple of years by using augmented reality to animate and personalize the consumer engagement with the brand. Now, the concept of augmented reality is kind of old hat. It's been around for a while, and we're finding that producers are finding ways to engage in dialogue through label recognition tools. Similarly, the increasingly rapid adoption of new types and flavor trends are being driven by millennials' discovery and sharing. Moscato, Prosecco, red blends, and most recently, rosé. In fact, most recently, Prosecco rosé are good examples. And as an aside, you can call me a Luddite, but I've been waiting and watching for Riesling to catch fire and hope it does in my lifetime. Hasn't yet in the U.S. What's even more interesting and often overlooked is that while millennials may get the headlines, the reality is that every age cohort is engaging with these tools. Boomers, Gen X, and even the greatest generation, albeit with a little help from younger kids like us. So, the bottom line conclusion for this section, millennials absolutely are critically important. But if you look at some of the sales numbers, you will find that boomers still represent the lion's share of volume and value in wine sales in the United States. And while that may be declining, it's at a very slow rate. Millennials are growing, but boomers still represent the lion's share of volume and value, especially with higher-end wines, meaning those selling over $20 each. Hope you found this useful. This is Steve Raye for the Italian Wine Podcast, and this week we were talking about the impact of millennials in the U.S. wine market. Opportunities are never lost. Someone will take the ones you miss.